Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. Someone's got a radio or a TV on in the background. It would be great if you're coming in to just stay on mute for now until we open it up for discussion.
No.
So we're just letting people in from the waiting room and we'll get started in a few minutes here. Welcome everyone. For those that are just joining, we're just continuing to let people in from the waiting room and we'll get started in just a minute or two.
Can you not mute yourself? I don't know. Lunch meetings.
I'll just listen.
And if you're coming in, it is helpful to, if you can find the mute down at the bottom left of your screen, it's helpful to stay muted until we're in a conversation later on. Paul, do you think we should get started?
I do. I hope that you're all having a beautiful spring evening up in Mendon, and I wish we could be there in person with you. Last month, we had a fabulous session with deep discussion of key potential directions for community action to drive an optimal future for the community of Mendon. It's an honor to be part of these conversations. At BCRD, we get to see real democracy at work. People who line up for the future of their communities. They make a difference. They set trajectory. They lift up their towns. And we see everywhere we go, people are doing great things for the future of their communities. So thank you. And thank you for coming and being on the line tonight for this session, which is a dramatic piece of work that we've got to get through. If you've looked at the agenda, you'll know what I'm talking about. Jenna's going to walk through some of the agenda and the details of what we're up to in just a few minutes, but we've got a lot of ground to cover. This is a work session. So thank you for being here with us. I want to start by introducing Danielle Monroe. Danielle, are you with us? Oh, there she is. Danielle has stepped up to agree to serve as the overarching chair for this effort, to coordinate, to connect to the select board, to connect with the planning commission, to keep things working together, to connect the two chairs for the processes and work to support the task forces that will emerge, and also to connect with us and all the potential connections we have in terms of bringing resources in to support the efforts in Mendon. And so Danielle, thank you. It's awesome of you to step up this way, and we should give her a round of applause. And Danielle, we'll give you a second to share a word of welcome, but I also want to introduce the visiting team who are with us tonight. If you could just wave. We have Ed Bove, the Executive Director of Rutland Regional Planning Commission, Jacob Hemrick, the Planning and Policy Manager at Housing and Community Development in the Agency of Commerce, Lyle Jepson, Executive Director of the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland Region. John Max Muse, the Vermont Area Director for USDA Rural Development. Tyler Richardson, the Operations Director for the Chamber and Economic Development of Rutland Region. Joe Segali, the Policy Planning and Research Bureau Director for the Vermont Agency of Transportation. John Sinclair, Forest Supervisor for Green Mountain and Finger Lakes National Forest. So he's the top guy there. Kevin Weiberg, Philanthropic Advisor for Community Engagement from the Vermont Community Foundation. So thank you all for coming tonight, putting yourselves on the line to support the progress of Mendon. We really appreciate it. So this is the second half of a big process. Last month was all about ideas. Let's generate ideas. Let's generate potential points of vision. Tonight, we're going to digest those ideas. We're going to choose the points of vision that we support. We're going to set the beginnings of an action plan and connections to resources to drive forward core priorities for action that emerge in this one evening session. So it's going to be a really exciting night. I can't wait to see what the priorities are and the work that comes from this. But already at VCRD, we're feeling very optimistic about the energy and good ideas on the table for Mendon. So Danielle, I'd love to give you the floor for a minute just to welcome folks and introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Danielle Monroe. I have lived in Vermont for the past 16 years. About 13 of those have been here in Mendon as a homeowner of 2 different houses on South Mendon Road in Mendon. We liked it so much we moved here twice. I am the executive director of Wonder Feet Kids Museum in downtown Rutland. And my husband, for most of the 13 years that we've lived here, has worked remotely from home. And we have 2 young kids at Barstow. So we're kind of the poster family for why Mendon is a great place to be able to work remotely and connect with your community, enjoy all the beautiful things that Vermont has to offer, and our great school system here in Mendon. What you may or may not know is that Wonder Feet Kids Museum downtown came out of a similar planning group like this that was done in Rutland over 10 years ago. So I know firsthand that really great ideas can come out of a planning process like this. And like I said, I'm very passionate about our community here in Mendon and know that we have a lot of great people assets, natural assets, business assets that should make people want to move here and want to do business here. So I'm very excited from the energy that I saw last time and from all my conversations that I've had with everyone at VCRD. So I'm happy to take on this role. Thanks.
Very great of you, Danielle, and thank you so much. And I remember that night in Rutland 10 years ago or so when that priority was established. It was very exciting and people really lined up to make it happen. I want to quickly introduce VCRD staff. Nick Kramer, Community and Policy Associate. Jenna Koloski, who's going to share take the mic in just a second, Community and Policy Manager. Alyssa Johnson, who leads Community Projects. And Margaret Gibson McCoy, our Office and Communication Manager. Thank you all for being on the line too tonight. And Jenna, I'll turn it over to you to walk through the agenda and then look at the vision statement.
Great, thanks, Paul, and hi, everyone. Really great to see everybody again. And thank you, Danielle. Really excited to work with you in this process and beyond. So we've got a lot to accomplish tonight. We have 3 major tasks that we need to cover in this second step in the Mendon on the Move process. So throughout the course of the evening, we're going to accomplish 3 things. First, we're going to review and vote on those vision statements that we shared last month. So if you were a part of the meeting last month, you'll remember that folks kind of took the mic and shared their vision for the future of the town. If you weren't here last month, that's fine. This is your chance to weigh in on those vision statements and to choose which ones are in line with your vision for the future. So we'll get into that in just a moment. And then we're going to turn very quickly towards action. So we are going to review all of the ideas that came out of the forums last month in March. And we're going to, there we go, the agenda for the evening. So you'll see the agenda there on your screen. We're going to review the action ideas, both that came from the forum a month ago and also that came from surveys that were around town and an online survey. We'll look at those together, read them out loud as a community, and then we'll actually take some time to champion those priorities. So everyone will have an opportunity to share, of these ideas, which do you think are the most actionable and impactful and meaningful for the future of Mendon? We're then going to very quickly go through a prioritization virtual dot voting exercise, and we'll walk through how we're going to do that. But you'll go and take a poll and let us know which ones you think are most important, and we'll settle on. Danielle and I had a chat and decided that 2 priorities seemed right for Mendon to take on today. And then we're going to go from choosing those priorities to building a starting point for action plans. So as soon as those priorities are chosen, we'll share them with you, and we'll very quickly ask people to break out into 2 different groups. Paul will take one group and I'll have the other, and we'll walk through an exercise to think about what are the starting points for action in each of these different arenas. And our resource team that's with us that Paul just introduced will help us to also think about what resources are out there to support this work, what's possible, who can help, what other communities have taken these things on that you could connect with. And so we'll walk out of this evening with 2 priorities, with folks signed up and ready to work on them, and with an action plan and resources to get started. So that's the goal for the night. I do want to really quickly, Margaret, is there a slide on what's the next? Is it vision? Okay, can we pull that down for a second? Before we get into the vision survey, I do want to just go over how to raise hands, because what we're going to do is, as we go through both with the vision survey and with the actions, we find it really valuable for community members to read them out loud so that you can all hear them together collectively. And so if you could, if you're willing to be a community reader and read these very short vision statements, if you could just raise your hand and I'll call on you as we go through them. So there are a couple different ways to raise your hand. Some of you may be very familiar with the Zoom platform and some may be new to it. So you can, if you click on participants at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's a little option to raise hands within that window that pops up. I believe you can also click on reactions, and there's a little bar there in reactions that says raise hand. If you are on the phone, I believe you can use *9 to raise your hand. And if you are on a tablet or joining from your phone, I think if you click on the screen, a little menu, the little dots at the bottom will allow you to pull a menu up that allows you to raise your hand as well. So if folks are willing to be a community reader, go ahead and use that raised hand function to let me know, and we'll go through them. So Margaret, if you could pull this up on the screen.
Is it up, Jenna?
Yep, okay. So let me just, as you're deciding whether you want to be a reader, let me just quickly walk through what this vision survey was all about. So at the last meeting, we went through and folks kind of stood up and said, as we think about the future of Mendon, what would we like to see once we accomplish these actions that we decide on, once we get these things done that we want to do? What does that look like for the future? What is our hope for the future? And what we're going to do is just collect these final vision statements and put them in the front of the final report so that as you move forward with the action that you'll take on, you have a framework that can help you to guide that work. So what we'll do right now is just read through the vision statements that you came up with last month, and then we will share a link with you where you can go and actually take a quick survey to select which vision statements you think should be included in that list. So Margaret, if you want to pull up that first one, and Hannah, if you want to start reading.
Mendon residents look to a future for the community where there is a central location in Mendon where the community can come together.
Great, thank you. Patty, the next one. Patty, are you there?
Yeah, there we go. I was muted.
There you-
Mendon has an historic downtown on the Route 4 corridor.
Thank you. Terry?
Thank you. Mendon residents look to a future for the community where the Route 4 corridor is vibrant and contributes to the Mendon community and economy.
Thank you. Is somebody willing to read the next one? Feel free to raise a hand or just unmute and or wave. Roy, go ahead.
The blights of the Route 4 corridor are a thing of the past. Its hotels and businesses are productive.
Great. Thanks, Roy. And who would like to read the next one? James, you're probably not James, but I see you're waving.
Well, it's my husband's iPad. So I'm Mary.
Hi, Mary, go
and
ahead.
Mendon residents look to a future for the community where Route 4 through town is a beautiful drive where people want to stop and be part of the community.
Great, thanks, Mary. Someone else to do the next one? Megan?
There's a real sense of community in Mendon where residents work well together.
Thank you. And the next one?
Mendon is a place that people want to go to, not just through. It's not just a pass through from Rutland to Killington.
Great, thank you. And who wants to read the next one?
Mendon maintains the rural character of the community while fostering creative and innovative businesses.
Great, thanks, Al.
Mendon's recreation assets contribute to a strong local economy. Its businesses support people that come for its beauty and recreation opportunities.
Great, thank you.
Say about it.
Is that the last one, Margaret? Okay, I think my
Yeah, that's
screen's behind. Great. All right, so now really quickly, we're just going to take a couple minutes. We hate to send you away to a different place, but we find that the best way to do this is to link to a separate survey. And so there's a couple different ways you can do this. I want to say up front, we will be sending this survey out via email. So everyone will have an opportunity to take this, everyone who's on our email list. And also all of you are welcome to share this broadly. We're going to leave the survey open for another week. And so feel free, once we send it out, an email tomorrow, to share it on Facebook, share it in email, get it out any way that you want. But for now, if you want to just take a minute or two, you'll see in the chat box, there's a link to the vision survey. It's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/Mendon vision. Can people see that in the chat? Is that coming up for you? Okay, I'm seeing some nodding heads. That's a good sign. Great, because we're going to be using this a couple different times throughout the meeting to send you to a link in the chat. So go ahead and just take a minute or two if you want to click on that. And what you're thinking of here is not, think broadly about, of all of these statements, which ones am I okay leaving in a list of vision statements for the future of my community? So you're not voting on your favorite one, you're voting on all those that you think should be included. And so if there's one that you feel like, yeah, that really doesn't fit with my vision, leave that one blank, but the rest, check them all off. So just think about which ones do I feel comfortable leaving in a list. Oh, that wasn't for me. So which ones do you feel comfortable leaving in a list at the beginning of this report that would help frame the work moving forward?
These opportunities.
And we'll just give it another minute or two. And we are going to have some downtime in this meeting where we're sending you off to vote and things like that. I wish we had like a musical act or something that we could entertain you with, but we'll move through it quickly. And again, we'll be sending this link out via email. We'll post it on the Facebook event pages. We'll make sure that people get it and have a chance to take it, even if they're not attending the meeting tonight. And Sarah, maybe it could go out on the town Facebook page too. All right, well, as people are wrapping up with that, I think I will turn it over to Paul to help lead us in the action part of the conversation. But you're on mute right now, Paul.
Like that could be the cover of Newsweek magazine. You're on mute.
You're
right?
on mute.
It's like Times word of the year. So now we're getting into the ideas that we heard. So last month, we basically had 3 hours where, because we had 2 different sessions where we were just gathering ideas on assets, on challenges and opportunities, and then your best ideas for what should be done to move Mendon forward. And those ideas, like for each of the different groups that were going, we were hearing a lot of the same things. We compiled all that, we reviewed it together, and we kind of cluster analyze, and we see that different things are said in different groups. And so we kind of pull them together as key themes for directions for the community to look at. We've done this a lot, and we've got a list that we'll pull up here. And again, we want to read them together. And like for Free CRD, it's all about deep listening. Like we really listened to you last week or last month, but nobody of you could have been in all the sessions. So tonight you get to hear and think about and deliberate for a second before we go into discussion what got on the table last month. So let's start with a similar process. It'd be great if people raise their hands, and we'll walk into the propositions that are on the table for us to consider through the course of tonight. Can we pull those up? So that's the first one. Is there someone ready to read that? Hannah Abrams. Hannah, do you want to read it?
Sure. Expand housing. A housing committee could work with regional and state partners to assess current needs and explore options, including new development of the redevelopment of vacant buildings along Route 4. Additionally, the group could focus on a review of zoning, incentives, and other regulations to improve housing development opportunities and access.
Thank you, Hannah. Roy Copans, want to read the next one?
Sure. Market Mendon to visitors, businesses, and residents. A task force could form to identify and implement strategies to document, showcase, and market Mendon's assets, amenities, and attractions to draw visitors, businesses, and new residents to the area.
Great, thank you. Is someone else ready to read the next one? Patty Lancaster, thank you.
Wasn't quite ready. Reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor. A task force could form to focus on the redevelopment and beautification of Route 4 through Mendon. The group could inventory current buildings and identify strategies for redevelopment and reuse, such as new business development, housing, community spaces, or other uses. The group could also identify locations for a park or outdoor gathering place, beautification strategies for signage, plantings, and other work to improve the aesthetics of the corridor. Additionally, actions could be taken to improve the safety of the corridor, including traffic calming strategies, crosswalks, lights, bump outs, bike paths, and wide road shoulders.
Thank you so much, Patty. Is someone ready to read the next one? Do we have a volunteer?
Support and foster local businesses. A task force could form to identify and implement ways to attract, boost, and support local businesses. Residents shared ideas for attracting businesses to town, including a grocery store, a cafe, a retail outfit for local artisans, outdoor recreation businesses, and more. The group could consider strategies to incentivize and attract businesses and offer support to businesses such as networking, collective marketing, or a small business advisor.
Thank you, Al. The next one, Megan.
Develop a community center. A task force could form to develop a community center in Mendon that would offer a space where folks could come together for community events, classes, concerts, and senior and youth programming. Other ideas for the space could include a satellite book lending library, a food shelf, childcare, an indoor gathering meeting space, and more.
Terrific, thank you. Is someone ready to read the next one?
Sure. Develop co-working space. A task force could form to evaluate the feasibility and explore the development of a local co-working space with shared office space and training and resources for area business owners, remote workers, and entrepreneurs. The group could also work to attract remote workers to the community.
Thanks so much. The next one, is there someone ready to volunteer? You don't have to be for it.
Yeah, I'll do it. Boost outdoor recreation. A task force could form to develop and promote year-round, year-round recreation in the community. The group could inventory, map, and share current trails and look for opportunities to expand in the future. One opportunity could be to partner with the Forest Service to expand trails in the community. Another opportunity could be an expansion of the Velomont Trail through Mendon. The group could also look into expanding accessible walking and biking paths in town, green spaces and parks, a playground, a dog park, or improving parking and access at current popular trail locations.
Is there someone who would read the last one?
Yes, improved community connection and events. Mendon residents expressed a need to better connect with neighbors and find ways to get together more often. The task force could form to plan community events and develop a communication strategy to improve connection. Events could include a flea market, an annual town celebration, concerts, programs for families and children, community meals, and more.
Thanks so much. So let's move those aside if we can, and let's think, is there anything that we've missed that was a big issue? Not like we need a fire hydrant in front of the general store, but like a big systematic thing that we've missed. Or did we pretty much catch it? Not seeing hands. Let's go into for us, lots of times, the most interesting part of these discussions are this part 5 in our agenda.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
sorry, there's somebody on the phone raising their hand and
Oh. Okay.
the
Could I
person who's
ask,
calling in on the phone, you have a hand raised. Do you have something to suggest?
they're muted.
And you can use *6 to unmute.
Okay,
We can
is
hear
that
you.
better?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. This may have been covered, but I remember last time somebody brought up affordable housing. So I don't know whether that was mentioned just now or not.
Yeah, that's on the list.
Okay,
So,
good.
but thank you. Yes. So let's move into part 5 of the agenda, which is really, it's kind of like the center of the meeting in some ways, where we get to say, of these different ideas, which are really in some ways different aspects of work that they definitely connect to each other, they border each other, sometimes they may even overlap a little bit. But what you're doing is you're saying that by choosing, this is something that I believe would have the most leverage for the future of the community. It's doable, it's within our power, it would boost the economy, boost the community, boost the well-being of people here. Maybe it would attract younger people, and you can have any number of motivations for supporting one of these versus another. We're not here to debate them or to criticize someone with a thing that someone else wants to see happen, but instead to say, I think this is the one that's most important. This is the one we should consider as first. This is the one that we should rally around. And over the course of this, we're going to try to get down to 2 that we would actually build task forces to build frameworks to drive forward. Okay. And do all that in one meeting. So Let's start. Who would like to champion one of those potential ideas as a priority? You can either raise your hand or show your hand, and I'll try to call on you.
Could we see them, Paul?
Um,
I'm gonna put them into the chat right now so that you'll
Yeah,
have
why
the
don't we
list
put them in
in
the
front of
chat?
you. We could also
I
pull
have
them
them
up.
all on one page if we wanted to go back and forth and looking at that together as well.
Yeah, we could pull them up if it's useful. It's just hard. It's nice to see everybody too.
Yeah, it's so good to see everyone. So Megan has her hand up. What's your thought, Megan?
It's going to be Greg, actually.
Okay.
So anyway, I thought that the statement regarding the improvement of the Route 4 corridor was pretty insightful, and it seems to be maybe one of the first steps that might allow some of the other ones to be more possible. So I thought that was a good one to either start with or rally behind.
Thanks so much. It's very inclusive, a big picture one. Susanna Laffer? Susanna?
I agree with the previous sentiment. I think we have a real opportunity in Mendon to create something similar to a Woodstock. They're a pass-through town in some ways too. And there's a lot of opportunity on Route 4 for us to create a place people actually want to be.
So you'd celebrate building a task force to reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor. Others, who else would like to share a perspective on one of these?
4 people here? Seriously? Oh.
Roy's got
Roy,
a hand up.
Roy Copans.
Yeah, on expanding housing, I thought that was just a really great idea. Thinking about the affordability of, housing in Mendon is not so affordable, and I'm a member of the Barstow community. My kids go to school there, and it's a real draw to the town. And I think, if we were able to maybe have some more affordable housing, we might. I just think that is a really something that could really work. And get some more families in who might not be able to afford a house. But I raise my hand now because I feel like that almost fits in with the previous, and actually with a couple others perhaps, right? So on this Route 4 corridor and making it better, one of those things can be taking some of these hotels, maybe converting them into affordable housing. So that could all be one big, broader.
Yeah. So
I'm sure that's true with a lot of them, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing we see people do, that people vote for the core priority that they think best frames the issue, knowing that work that may connect to others. The one on reimagining and improving the Route 4 corridor actually describes the group inventorying buildings, defining strategies for redevelopment, including potential housing development in some of those properties. So that's a pretty inclusive big picture one. I see Joanne O'Hagan.
Hi. I certainly think reimagining Route 4 should be a top priority because it encompasses so many things. But the other one that jumps out at me is to boost outdoor recreation. I think that as a resident for the last 3 years, I don't know very much about it. And it certainly would be beneficial to have that known more in the outside world. And it would help fulfill some of these other things, I believe. And we have the National Forest Service building going up, and there may be a way to dovetail with that at this particular moment. So I would make that a priority.
Great. So developing a task force around building and boosting outdoor recreation. Danielle.
I just kind of wanted to second what Roy said about kind of the conjoining ideas of improving the Route 4 corridor and finding ways to include additional housing there. Because to me, I think, we've tried a lot of things to get businesses into Mendon and nothing has really stuck. So I'm not sure, what the new ideas would be that would change that. Whereas with housing, I feel like that's a sort of thing where it's, if you build it, they will come. I think if there were more houses available in Mendon, they would for sure get sold hopefully to, young families that are going to contribute to the tax base for a long time to come. And if we're turning some of those abandoned hotels into potentially like a housing development, we're also then tackling the job of kind of removing some of that blight along Route 4.
Right. So it sounds like you're suggesting, I mean, you could be praising housing for its own sake, or you could be saying, which it sounds like you're saying, Danielle, wouldn't it be good to move that housing issue and the title of that even into the expanding or reimagining and improving the Route 4 corridor?
Yeah,
and
I mean, I think
kind of
it was
combining those two?
included in that, description, like you had pointed out, it's included in there. And I think that kind of tackles two different topics. You can achieve that through that
Yeah.
one.
So oftentimes when we deal with this, we take it as a motion. And let me say up front, our prejudice at VCRD, we've seen this work a lot. We've done these a lot. Our prejudice is to say, don't combine unless it's a cogent good reason. For some communities, they combine everything and then they have the same list of challenges and ideas that they had at the beginning, and they haven't really set focus. But her proposal is that the language around expanding housing fits naturally under reimagining and improving the Route 4 corridor, and those two should be added together. When we're in person in a room, we ask for a show of hands for people who would agree with that as a motion. Obviously, this isn't big formal Robert's rules. And if it looks like the big majority of people really do want to move that thing, we would move it. So Danielle, I'm gonna ask, is Adam you want to take it as a motion?
Sure, I
Okay.
move that.
So how many people would like to see the language at the top around expanding housing join into the reimagining and improve the Route 4 corridor? So you'd be building one task force to work on Route 4 and to also look deeply into housing opportunities in that effort. If
And you
you're
can either
for-
wave a hand or you can use the little in reactions, there's like a yes check.
Yeah, so just either raise your hands in front of the screen or go ahead and do so electronically.
No, I don't think there's a no.
Somebody doing a quick count?
I say no.
Okay, we're gonna ask you about no's. Jenna, are you taking a count?
Am I taking account? Yes.
Okay, how many people would prefer not to combine?
Wait, I didn't count.
This is so unbelievable.
Okay.
Okay, how many people would prefer not to see those two things combined? Raise your hands.
2 votes here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So my gut
There's
is,
quite a few more saying yes, but it's not a huge majority.
let's hold off on it. And if let's see how the rest of the conversation goes with the championing. It's usually not good to do it unless there's a real overwhelming majority that wants it to happen. The committee, when it forms, has the ability to say, we're going to do that too. So there's nothing that, the democracy of your work is going to make all of the decisions you want to make as you go. So let me ask, are there other things that should be prioritized on this list? Does someone else want to share perspective around one of these that you would like to champion? And I'm looking at some hands raised. I'm not sure if you want to speak. I see Megan and Laura.
I didn't, and I had my hand raised for
Okay.
the vote. I didn't take it down. Sorry.
Okay, that's good.
And
Laura,
Paul, the person on the phone has had their hand raised
I
as
see
well.
that too.
Oh, okay.
But they took it down too.
No, I just did that.
Oh, okay. So
Sorry.
The person on the phone, would you like to share a perspective on this? On something that you would champion?
And *6 to unmute.
No, actually,
Okay.
sorry. Actually, no, I just wanted to vote in favor of combining those two things,
Okay.
1 and 3 as That's all.
All right, thank you so much. It's not as much fun as being there in person, I'll tell you that. Jim, do you want to share a perspective on a priority?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. As many of you know, I'm crashing the meeting from Chittenden next door. And I'm really here mostly to listen. But one of the things that struck me as I went throughout the town the last couple of elections is the beauty of Mendon is good or bad, not on Route 4, but it's in all the surrounding roads and homes. And you have really a nice recreational center, but you have to be from Mendon to know where it is. And I don't know how you market that and whether that should be, part of your focus to expand those types of opportunities. But that's, to me, that's what makes it a community. But anyhow, I'll stay quiet unless asked. I'm really here more to listen what the sentiments of the town residents are. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jim. Someone else want to champion one of these as a priority for you, something that you think should happen? Jessica.
Hi, I'm not really a different one. I just wanted to say that they're really all tied in. I mean, we champion the Route 4 corridor. It's not so much of having to attach housing to it, but you can, once we get a plan for the Route 4 corridor, there's so much there for housing. We can have a community center there. You can do something with the recreation at the forest buildings. So, I mean, I really think it's a great start, and it's something else somebody wanted. I think there's a way that we can find that it fits in with that.
That's true. You could combine them. And, in talking in advance of this meeting with Danielle, in some communities like Rutland, we formed 5 different task forces to do everything from the new museum to starting Friday Night Live and to redevelop agri resources for the county and different. There's a lot of people, a lot of energy. In Mendon, the thought was to form 2 separate committees to focus on 2 different aspects of life that would really help to drive the community forward. So in the end, we'd like to vote down to 2 if we could. And that would let people choose. You wouldn't have just one big town task force. You'd have a couple of different processes working forward.
Paul, is it possible that you'd end up with a major heading for kind of an umbrella task force with a bunch of sub task force under that so that they all come together at some point?
If as you go, you decide to break out into subcommittees from any one of these, you could do that. Right now, we're acting as though Mendon on the Move was the overall umbrella, and then you'd have 2 work groups under that probably, depending on what you choose. Other things people would champion as the thing that should be chosen tonight. And some of the questions we ask are in our agenda are like, of these issues, is this issue actionable? Is it something that can be successfully addressed? Is it already being addressed and doesn't need the extra work or energy? Is it within the power of the community to get things done? Is it impactful? Is it going to have the greatest impact? And the thing that we also know is it going to build unity? Is it going to answer other issues of social connection and a sense of progress and a sense of neighborliness that comes from working together? Because sometimes that's a byproduct, but sometimes it's the most important thing as people move forward with their community. Is there other folks want to prioritize? I see there's 2 people. Roy Copens is ready.
Yeah, I wanted to put a plug in too for the community center idea. And if we are looking at 2 separate things, I think that community center was probably, in my mind, the one that came up the most over the last couple sessions and sort of checks all the boxes in terms of unity, actionable, a lot of other things. I think it could potentially very well fit into the Route 4 corridor idea. And I think we're really getting into that where it does seem like a lot of these would fit together, and to keep this one separate, I think it is one that really came up the most as something that this town of Mendon really could use. So,
Yeah, okay. Well, you think about a work of a task force working on Route 4 that's evaluating properties and looking at slowing traffic or whatever is within the scope of that. And then another group that was focused on actually developing a community center. You don't want to be just building a plan, you want to actually be doing the thing, right? So that's a suggestion. Megan, do you have your hand up because you're waiting, or is it still just up? Maybe it's still just up. Other folks would like to prioritize or suggest that something that's really important to you on the list, or that you would want to be part of.
I wonder if it would be helpful to share the list one more time.
Yeah,
On the screen, just to, because we've been talking about two of them, but there were some others on there that, I don't know, Margaret, are you able to pull that up one more time, the full?
So expand housing, market Mendon to visitors, businesses, and residents, reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor. I can't see that one. Support and foster local businesses, develop a community center, develop a co-working space, boost outdoor recreation, improve community connection and events. Okay, just maybe we can set that aside.
Looks like
again.
Rebecca Kearns is waving a hand in front of the screen.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Rebecca, and this is Judy Barone. And I want to say that I'm confused by what we mean about expanding housing as a doable task. Private owned property is 2 acres zoned in Mendon, and people who own their property do with what they like to do with their property. And I don't know how we can expand housing. If we're talking about government housing or low-cost housing or retirement housing, I think we need to think about that. What is it we're looking for here? And how could we possibly feasibly get into that in any reasonable way? I'm a big proponent of the reimagining the Route 4 corridor. I think that Mendon needs an identity. People go, Mendon, did I miss it? Did I blink? What do they do in Mendon? And I have this vision that if we could do plantings that the state approved of down through the Route 4 corridor that were seasonal and all the same, like lilacs for one time a year and another thing for another time of year, that people would drive into Mendon and go, what is this place? Oh my God, it's so beautiful all the time. And all of a sudden we would have an identity. And it would be very simple, very doable, and really quick. So I'm a big proponent of not putting those two things together. I can't imagine how we can expand housing. I mean, the school system is costing us all so much money that people complain constantly. Expanding housing brings in that we have been challenging. Our schools have taken in kids from other towns. It's just something that it has a whole lot of invitation for a huge amount of energy that I think will take grossly away from improving the Route 4 corridor. And personally, there is not one person that can come to Mendon from out of town that doesn't go up the Route 4 corridor. Other things I think would take care of themselves if we became someplace on the map that just looked beautiful.
Okay, thanks so much, Rebecca. Other priorities from other folks. I see Joanne O'Hagan, and then Al. You're muted, Joanne.
When I look at the list, market Mendon to visitors, businesses, and residents, and boost outdoor recreation, in many ways, without doing much other than what's listed in mapping and things like that, we could have very quickly an identity as a great outdoor recreation town. And the people that are passing through to Killington, that's what many of them are looking for. And I think that's an opportunity that could be grabbed, and they kind of dovetail.
Those are there.
The way to market, it's a way to market Mendon, and it's also a way to, open this up and make it more available and accessible to residents.
Thank you, Joanne. I'll go to Al and then Susanna.
Sure, I'd like to support and foster local businesses. I do think that ties into the Route 4 corridor, although there may be businesses, unique businesses, certainly in other places. But you know, if you go through Mendon at 45 or 50, or maybe sometimes 52, you pass by lovely little places with nice little signs on the side of the buildings. You have no idea what they are. And they are obviously viable businesses because they're people with trucks and cars and people going in and out, but you don't know what they are. And they're just a lot of little businesses that, boy, could use really the support of the community. That wonderful little Nicaraguan coffee shop that used to be a general store, a country store, open part of the time, closed part of the time. Most people don't know what they do in there. It's a fascinating little business. It, in and of itself, quite honestly, if it grew and became something significant, could define Mendon in and of itself, from what I understand of the plans. But I think, once again, if we can, whatever we can do to support local businesses and help them grow, if there's kind of a unique way of tying them together through branding in some kind of way, that would be fascinating and economically viable.
Terrific, thank you. Susanna.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Al was saying, I think, the coffee shop could be a hub if we had a decent market, a small grocery store that offered things that, other area stores weren't offering. I think that could be a draw for people in both directions. But what I was originally going to say was that the community center could serve as a hub for the outdoor recreation, and it could be a community center for residents, but also a hub for visitors to get maps to the outdoor recreation and learn about local businesses and grant opportunities. It could take the marketing and some of that other stuff under its wing in the same space.
Great, thank you so much, Susanna. Other ideas about what's most important in the list of ideas that we heard from a month ago? What's your priority for action? Rebecca?
Judy wanted to say something about ownership.
Well, I'm just saying that I've been a Mendon resident. My family's been here for years, and people who come here often really like some privacy, and that's why they're here. And the 2-acre zoning is very helpful to that. And I live on the edge of the National Forest up there on Old Turnpike Road, and we have the National Forest path through my grandfather's property all my childhood. And it was recognized as a Green Mountain hike, and people were really thoughtful about coming and going. But if you're going to advertise my neighborhood for parking cars on my road so that people can walk the National Trail, they have a little parking lot up there already. And on a holiday and during COVID, we had no less than 15 or 20 cars lined on the road. We had to call the constable regularly. And it's not a safe situation, number one. And it's not a good situation for the people who are living there. There's some people come and go, they're not home, and it creates a way big public event.
So we probably won't solve that tonight, but it sounds like you would want some rational planning around the way that any recreation area or asset was marketed. You'd want to have some thought and input into that before it happened.
And I do. And what I want to say is that there are books on every bookshelf around our community about hikes in Vermont, and all these hikes are very well publicized, and the trails are out there, but you want the kind of people that know how to search that down and not just open a public access. It's like becoming the bridge at Queechee, where everybody drives across and gets out of their car and buys an ice cream cone, or is it like a dedicated, wonderful, beautiful spot for people who are going to respect the land?
So again, we won't, that would be, if there was a committee that was established to support outdoor recreation, they would want to be thinking that through really well. So we're not going to be able to solve all that tonight, but those would be conditions that they would have as they thought about what would work best for Mendon. Are there other things you'd want to champion in a positive way as potential priorities that you would like to see established for action?
Like I said, all you want to do is live in Southern California and go on one of these trails.
Others? Jeff Barron.
So I just heard that Pine Hill Park is building their last trail this summer because they're over capacity. So it'd be nice to get more of boost the outdoor recreation and kind of combine that with the Route 4 corridor improvement, because there's not really a safe way to get through Mendon from town up to Killington, you know, on skis or mountain bike or walking or running.
Huh.
So I think that that's pretty important to me.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. We've certainly worked with communities that have built big links, you know, bike trails or walkways that connect different natural areas. Others have priorities that you would want to see out of this list that you would, you know, essentially we're trying to get people to vote for our priorities. You're basically campaigning now. You have the opportunity to say, I think we should all support this one because it's going to be the most powerful in leveraging our collective future. Anything that someone, oh, I see Deanna.
Yeah, I guess I would second the motion for the boosting outdoor recreation, because in that sense, I was thinking we could, you know, sort of capitalize on the extension of the Killington season and the continued growth that they're seeing of mountain biking. If, for example, there was a biking connection, I've gotten into it myself, and I would love to bike through Mendon, but I honestly am afraid to bike on roads and would rather be off road. So that would be my vote.
Okay. I mean, one of the things that's fascinating is that you're talking about big things like Route 4 corridor or mountain bike trails and stuff in a time where the state is looking to invest in just those sort of things. There's huge opportunities to drive any number of these priorities forward. So other thoughts on what's most important on the list? Seems like.
Well, oops.
Yeah, go
This is
ahead,
Ann
Sarah.
Abrams. Sorry, I forgot, got to raise my hand. I think my focus would be on reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor, simply because a rising tide raises all ships. Very nice old saying, cliche. But if Route 4 is just such a connector to every town that's on it, and you know, from Rutland, Killington, Woodstock, Quechee, so on to 89. And the more beautiful and vibrant any of that is, I mean, I just think it's, I'm not being very eloquent today, but I think it raises the spirits of anybody who's driving through. So whether that's someone visiting for the first time, or someone who lives here, or someone who's coming to do business and whatnot. And certainly within Mendon, we've talked about it, we have some eyesores. So it's not just beautifying, not just planting, not just trying to help those business owners who have a business but aren't really visible. It's all of that stuff. And I think that's sort of grassroots, and then from that other things can come, or the additional aspects will come, like the recreation and improving the community and connection and all that sort of stuff.
Thanks, Hannah. We often see communities get parts of things done and then grow into other things. I saw Sarah Tully, did you want to share? And then we'll go to Jessica.
Hi, thank you. We've come up with a great list of things here, and I've been your town administrator for 20 years, and these are all great to-dos, and I think whatever you guys decide on is going to make a huge benefit to Mendon. I will put my 2 cents into reimagining the Route 4 corridor, and the history there is the old infrastructure has decreased your grand list, which then puts the tax onus on most residential properties. So as you do that, you will find tax relief for your residential properties, and at a great benefit. In addition, I want to plug and support and foster local businesses. To me, those two also go hand in hand. But as we develop and reimagine and reintroduce new businesses to the area, that will not only provide for economic stability, but also opportunities to lower property taxes. So that's my plug, and you guys are all doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Jessica.
Yeah, my plug for the corridor tied in kind of with the housing, and someone mentioned the school, we do have declining numbers, and ways to get more students into the school. Building Route 4, building some type of housing, even if it's a market with apartments on top. And any way we can get students in would also help lowering our taxes.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Mhm.
Other thoughts on what your priorities might be for action, or what thing you would want to work on? Roy Copans.
Yeah, I just had one more thought. I wanted to second somebody's motion I feel like we're going in the direction where the Route 4 corridor is pretty clearly a priority, and it's sort of what fits into that. I also feel like a lot of people are talking about outdoor recreation. But someone mentioned maybe fitting the community center and outdoor recreation together somehow. I just wanted to sort of second that maybe that's a direction we can go, where we've got two sort of distinct things. Again, they're gonna all sort of fit together, but and maybe the tie-in with the new what is it, State Forest or whatever it's called, center that's going up. I mean, just as a thought, you could just across the street build a community center that's focused on, Mendon outdoor recreation, just as one of its focuses. And so I just want to throw that out as sort of maybe tying some of this and giving us a little more direction, perhaps.
So people who got into a task force working on the community center could also work on that, or you could be making a motion, Roy, to combine those two.
I don't know if we're there yet, but I'm happy to make a motion. But I'm not sure we're there yet. So.
Okay, Kevin O'Hagan.
Yeah, reimagining and reinvigorating the Route 4 corridor. That's something that has a number of different parts attached to it. You want to give people a reason to stop. You want to catch their attention, making it beautiful. You want to have businesses that they want to stop in. You want to give them a reason to stop. You catch their attention, you slow things down, you give them a place to park where they're going to go into the businesses. It's not something that you can do individually by saying we're going to beautify it and people are going to come here more.
Right.
You have to do a lot of little things at once, and we have to focus on that.
Great, thank you. Other folks have a comment before we go into our voting? People feel like they've got a good picture of the different issues and a good sense of what they want to support? It feels like people are ready. So Jenna, I'm going to just ask you, Jenna, how many votes do people get and how do they vote around these potential priorities?
Yeah, Patty, did you have a last word that you wanted to get in there?
I guess I could add something.
Yes, please.
I believe that added reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor to the list. And one of the things that's on the longer explanation of that list, I believe that's the one it's under, is that there would be an inventory taken of the property. What's there? Who owns it? Is it in tax arrears? What's the value of it? And so I'm imagining that is whoever does that kind of a process is also going to be able to say, this little building over here that nobody owns or that's in arrears is in pretty good shape. You could make a community center out of it, or whatever.
That's true.
So I'm sort of imagining, and I wanted to second, I guess, the thought that getting that kind of understanding of what is it we have there, assets and liabilities, and what else could we make of those. I think those are all going to come into play. So again, I'm the naysayer to your vision, Paul, of having a bunch of smaller, and then you would bring in that group that would then want to talk about outdoor recreation, community center, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that we always say and have observed is that none of these go away. When you choose one priority or the other, the final action plan that we produce and distribute to everyone will include the full list of ideas for the future. And what you see often is that a group focuses on a couple of elements and then they're ready to go into, well, how do we do this next part? Maybe we need to gather a new group of people. And we sometimes come back and bring people together to facilitate the next step of things like we did for the museum in Rutland. And so it will evolve. But what you're doing is saying that for this year, we're going to gear up together to drive this issue forward. We're going to sign up, some of us, to be on a task force to drive that forward. So it's not just the town staff that are trying to carry all this by themselves. We're going to do the homework for this and help to drive it forward. And so let's think about the voting structure, Jenna. And
all right,
and how do
so
people
time to vote. So I'm going to walk through the different ways that we're going to go about this voting, but I want you to picture having 4 dots, little dot stickers in your hand, and that we have these listed up on the wall and walking up to them and sticking your dot in the wall. So we're doing the virtual version of dot voting. And so what we're going to do in a moment here is share a link to a polling page. It's called Poll Unit. And essentially, when you open up that page, it's going to give you 4 dots to work with, and it's going to give you a list of those 8 ideas that we've just reviewed together. And you can use your 4 dots in any way that you want. And so Margaret's pulled it up on the screen to show you what it looks like. So if you look at the screen, you'll see that you have your 8 listed there, and you've got 4 little places next to them. You can put if you think that expanding housing is the one and only thing that you would like to vote for, you can put all 4 of your dots on that one. But if you have 4 that you like, you could put 1 dot on 4 different ideas, or you could put 2 here and 1 there and 1 there. You can use those 4 dots in any way that you want, just like you would if you were sticking them on the wall. And one kind of funny thing about this software, just to be aware of, there's no submit button. Once you put your dots on there, it registers them. And it also registers if you change them. So if you put 3 on one and then decide, actually, I'm going to take 1 away and put 1 on the other, it'll register that in real time, and you don't need to hit submit. And so you can click on the link we're going to put in the chat, just like we did for the vision survey voting. We'll put the link in there, click on that. It's going to open a window for you that's separate from Zoom. Do your voting and then just come back to the Zoom screen. There are a couple of other options, especially if you're on the phone. If you have access to a computer, you can find this link at the Mendon on the Move website, which is the bit.ly/Mendon on the Move. Or you can call me and I will vote for you. So Nick is going to put my cell phone number in the chat, but it is 603-496-0755. And I'm going to go on mute and have my phone here and can pick up if you need to. Anyone that needs help with the voting, you can give me a call and I can vote for you. But the best option is to go into that chat box right now, and you'll see the link right in there that says pollunit.com/polls/Mendon, and you'll be able to do your voting right in there.
Okay, everyone.
If there are 2 of you calling in together, that is a little bit challenging, but if you've got another device, like if you've got your a cell phone or iPad there, then you can pull up the website and pull up that link as well. And again, I don't know if we want to put the website link in the chat there, but it's the bit.ly/Mendon on the Move. The same website you would have gone to register for this event or to find information about these events. We've got the poll right up there. Is everyone finding that okay? Feel free to chime in if you're having trouble.
Yeah, Jenna, the link, here's the voting link, doesn't seem like it's activated. I'm clicking on it and nothing's happening.
So when I click on that, it does take me to the page. The link just above that. So don't click the text, click the link that's above. Here's the voting link. It says https://pollunit.com.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So everybody's voting?
Whoops.
Yeah, again, chime in if you're having trouble, or my number 603-496-0755.
Huh.
Don't hesitate to call.
So guys, I've voted, but I don't see a submit button. What do I do?
Yeah, there's no, it's a little funny, but there's no submit button. If you've put your dots in there and close it out, you can know that the vote is being registered. We're seeing, we kind of see votes coming in real time.
Yeah, someone
So
else
as long
has
as you
asked-
close, when you're done voting, close it out and it'll be registered.
Someone else
I know
has
it
asked-
feels funny not to have that final submit.
Someone else is asking, it's not giving me dots. All you do is check the little circles and that acts like a dot. As Nick so thoughtfully put in the chat. Looks like a number of people are making progress. Are people, if you're done, you want to just raise your hand for a sec?
How do you get back to the? Do I just close out of the?
Yep, just leave it. I see Kevin, Kevin's raising his hand, and Megan and Terry and Deanna and Joanne. So a lot of people are done. This is another one of those things that's more fun to do in person. But we appreciate Mendon people being dedicated to democracy. Does anyone having a challenge with this at this point?
Yeah, I still can't get the circles. It pulls me to the screen, so I don't know if I can just text you my choices.
That's totally fine, Jessica. If you want to do that, I'll put them in.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else having challenges? Obviously, it's very important that everyone who wants to vote should have the opportunity now. Jenna, let us know when you're done with that and we will continue.
Just a quick question for you. When we're done, we close out the tab?
Yes, and it will count your votes when you leave. So normally,
Are people still voting? Because I can leave it open for a minute or I can close it down.
Jenna, are you done?
No, I think I'm still waiting for a text vote.
Okay, so let me just describe in our normal setting, we're in the town hall or something. We've got everything all over the walls and everyone's walking around and having cookies and they're sticking their stickers and all that such. And then we go into a flurry where we're ripping all these sheets off the walls with all kinds of numbers on them, going off into a side room. And sometimes we have a musical group or something going on in the gym while we're in the other room counting them out. In a big town, we'll do it and we'll be doing 2 different rounds of this. We may have 30 different issues on the wall. It may take, an extra hour of counting and back and forth, coming out to a smaller list for priorities. And yet when I think that there's something very efficient about this as well. And if we're close to ready, we can start to pull up a sum total in just a moment for us all.
Paul, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I just see there are 46 participants on this right now. I don't know how many there were when we started. I think there were, but there have only been 2 screens. So what maybe 55, 60 people, and Mendon has, I don't know, Sarah can tell us what, 800 residents. So we got 40, 50 people speaking for, 800 residents. How do you validate that, whatever the result of
Yeah,
this is?
well, we're not building a legal binding vote of any kind, and nothing that binds on the town. We're saying of everyone who was reached out to, and we did a really with the help of the steering committee and everyone else, we reached out to everybody, and there were 6 ways to Sunday for people to know about these sessions. So we're setting a direction, but we're not setting finality. So anyone can join this effort at any time. The groups will move with those who are at the table and working on these projects. But we find that the energy comes from the people who come to these sessions and want to be actually volunteer to drive these things forward. And it's worked pretty well.
That just last question out of curiosity, how
Sure.
does our participation compare with the other rural communities that you've already worked?
It's a good question. When we worked with Rutland, we had 450 people in the meetings, and subgroups of 50, 60, and 200 people signed up to be on task forces. Really different scale than Mendon, right? In a very small town, and Mendon is one of the smallest towns we would work with. So you're not on the top end of participation per capita, but in some ways that's to be expected. As you've described yourselves in previous sessions, Mendon's partly a bedroom community. It doesn't have a galvanizing downtown at this point. And so it's not surprising that there's not 100 people here. We think that 45, 50 people engaged in thinking together and setting direction and getting engaged in action in a town of Mendon size is good.
Paul, voting's all done and we're ready to share the top 2 if you are.
Let's pull it up, Jenna.
All right.
Okay, so the 2 that everyone sees the screen, the 2 that were ranked at the highest level were reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor and then boost outdoor recreation. And it's always really interesting to us how the deliberation goes. I think that everyone had a lot of clarity that there's room under number 1, reimagining and improving the Route 4 corridor, to include the development of housing in some of those properties, potentially either leveraging developers in or connecting for affordable housing, workforce housing, with organizations that could help. It also, there was talk at the table that could also include a subgroup over time, that if a place is identified that would be a great community center, that could happen in that process. On the other one, interestingly, the other one is really the reverse of the corridor and the downtown and the big road and the traffic. It's really about expanding and engaging people to work together in outdoor recreation, on trails, on signage, on what fits best for outdoor recreation in the Mendon community at the Mendon scale. And everyone knows there could be potential links between those. There's a great idea on the table that outdoor recreation could connect with the redevelopment of the Forest Service property, and that could be on Route 4. And so there's lots of room for synergy. But as a framework, what this really says is that there's an opportunity for people to sign up and participate in driving these 2 different processes forward. So our idea now, and we're just about exactly on time, is to break out for about an hour on each of these 2 topics. And with our panel of experts, we'll divide them up too, and we'll work on these different sections to say, well, what's going on with the Route 4 corridor now? What's going on with outdoor recreation? What's the status of this issue? What's already been done around this? What are some of the potential practical action steps we could take? Some of which, like Route 4 corridor, redeveloping properties, are big long-term things that might take a couple years to do. Others may be those sort of like the ideas on doing plantings, on doing painting, on doing practical things that could engage the community in mutual volunteer action. And so you're going to be building a number of potential action steps, and then ultimately by the end of the evening, agreeing here's 5 or 6 starting points for the work that could happen next. We're then going to think, and especially think with our resource experts, are there technical assistance that could come from the regional planning or the regional development corporation? Are there state resources? Could there be federal resources that could come in and help? Are there other nonprofits or philanthropy that could help drive these 2 things forward? And in the end, through the course of the evening, we will be describing something of a work plan and resource list to start the process for these groups that Jenna will be cataloging and will be in the action plan that comes from everything you say. We're not going to be making any decisions. We're just going to be charting through and facilitating the conversation with you all to get there. So Jenna, how are we going to break out into these different 2 working groups now?
Yeah, thanks. So, so this is the last thing we're going to ask of you all this evening in terms of helping us use this platform to accomplish what we need to get done. So we're going to break out into 2 groups. Resource team members, we've kind of assigned you on the back end. Hopefully where we're placing you makes sense, but feel free to move over if it doesn't. And VCRD staff, you're all assigned. For Mendon community members, you should choose which one you'd like to go to. If you're interested in working on reimagining the Route 4 corridor, you would go to group 1. If you're interested in thinking about outdoor recreation, you would go to group 2. And the way that we're going to do that, we found this to be the easiest way to do this in Zoom. And if you were with us last month, you're familiar with the process. You're going to let us know 1 or 2 by changing your name on Zoom to reflect which one you want to go to. And so you'll see on this slide here, you can do that by renaming yourself in Zoom. The easiest way to do that is to take your mouse and hover over your name. You can right click on your image or even click the little 3 dots in the corner of the box and just select rename and add 1 or 2 next to your name corresponding to the breakout group that you want to go to. So you put a 1 next to your name, and I'll just do it here to model. I'll hit rename, and then I'll just put a 1 in front of Jenna and hit OK. And then you'll see my name says 1 Jenna Koloski, and then Nick would know that I wanted to go to group 1. So go ahead and do that if you can.
We can't see ourselves with the screen share. There we go.
Also, if you are on the phone, hang tight. Margaret is going to stay in the room to assign you. You can just let her know which one you want to go to. And if what I just described didn't make any sense, just stay on and Margaret can also assign you as well. But if you are able to, it's really helpful to do that rename function and put a 1 or a 2 in your name to let Nick know where you want to go. So I'm seeing a lot of numbers there.
Can you remind everybody what's 1 and what's 2? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, sure. 1 is the reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor, and 2 is boost outdoor recreation. All right, Nick, are you ready to hit go? So what Nick's gonna open the breakout rooms. You'll see a little window pop up on your screen, and it's gonna confirm that you want to join the breakout room you're being sent to, and just make sure that you tell it, yes, I do, and it'll send you to the right place.
Just about there. I'm waiting. We've got a couple of people trickling in. We're down to the last handful. Seems like we're sort of plateauing. So I'll go ahead and open these, and like Jenna said, click on the button and we'll sort out any stragglers as we go.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
It's always a miracle when it works. Thank you all. Can people hear me? Okay.
Yes.
We're just going to start with 10-second introductions. So you're going to want to follow my lead, and I'm going to call on you. I'm Paul Costello from Montpelier, and I'm the executive director of VCRD. So you can say your road or your job, but really quickly like that. Lyle.
Lyle Jepson, Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland Region.
Megan Smith.
Megan Smith, retired, living in Mendon on Esquiline Hill.
Nice to see you. Deanna.
Deanna Briggs, living on Sherwood Drive.
Patty Lancaster.
Patty Lancaster, no public defender. I live on Mendon View Drive.
Well, nice to meet you. Danielle.
Danielle Monroe on South Mendon Road.
Terry.
Hi, Terry, also on South Mendon Road and Planning Commission.
Edward Bove.
Hi, Ed Bove with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, almost in Mendon on Sunset Drive in Rutland Town.
Jake Hemerick.
Hi, Jake Emmerich. I work as a planning policy manager in the Department of Housing and Community Development and live in Berry City.
And he's on the steering committee for the Berry City community visit that's coming soon. Jim Harrison.
Hi, Jim Harrison from nearby Chittenden and state rep for the district.
Thanks. Hannah Abrams.
Hannah Abrams, Wright Road off of Cream Hill.
Alyssa Johnson.
Has a lot of windows open, and I work for BCRD and live in Waterbury.
Great. Sarah Tully.
Hi, Sarah Tully, and I'm your town administrator and also a Mendon resident on the Notch Road.
Joe Segali.
Hi, everybody. Joe Segali. I'm the Director of Policy, Planning, and Research for the Agency of Transportation, and I'm up in Huntington.
Max Muse.
Max Muse from USDA Rural Development, and tonight I'm coming from my office in Brattleboro.
Joanne O'Hagan.
I live, Joanne O'Hagan. I live on Spencer Meadows. I'm retired and I've been a Mendon resident for 3.5 years. Love it.
Rebecca Kearns.
Rebecca Kearns, Meadow Lake Drive, 15 years.
It's
Al Wakefield.
Yeah, Al Wakefield, Cream Hill Road, retired executive search consultant. It's good to see Megan Smith. I didn't know she was there.
Jessica Cannell.
Jessica Cannell, Mendon Town Line Road.
Brett Yates.
Brett Yates, Deer Run. I work at Killington and write for the Mountain Times.
Great. James Ruth.
I'm representing James Ruth. This is Mary Ruth, and we've lived in Mendon for over 50 years. We are now living in Eastridge Acres off of Town Line Road.
Thanks. Laura.
Laura Zmerko. We live at the very top of Mendon, the last house before Killington in Robinwood.
Wow, cool. Mary.
Not me, sorry. I'm Mary Krause and I'm here with David and we live on Wright Road.
Terrific. Chris Murphy.
Yes, out of towner, but I have a piece of property on Route 4 and I'm looking to retire there in the next few years.
Hey, great. Nice to have you with us. Susanna.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here with Adam, Journey's End.
Cool. Hey, Adam. And am I missing somebody? Roy Copans.
Sorry, guys. Yep, Roy Copans, and lived in Mendon for 2 years, and I'm on Mendon View Drive.
And Margaret.
Yeah, Margaret Murphy here with my husband Patrick. We're on Sherwood Drive. We've been here just about a year.
Great. Jerry. Jerry, you're muted, I guess.
Yes, Black Bear Path, 15 years.
Terrific. Well, what a great group of people. This is a big group, and nobody here has signed on to be on an ongoing task force, but our job in the next hour or a little bit less is to say, what are the things we would do to advance this particular issue? And then really think and build a list of potential resources that could help. You should also know that as staff at VCRD, we're going to reach out to everyone who's been on the visiting team over the last 2 meetings and ask their advice in terms of what are the resources, connections, supports that they could provide to help this task force move forward with this mission. So we're going to end up with lots of advice down to the phone numbers for who to call to ask for dollars, if that's what it takes. I'm going to just read to start, read this, the language that you prioritized as cornerstone to this group. Reimagine and improve the Route 4 corridor. A task force could form to focus on the redevelopment and beautification of Route 4 through Mendon. The group could inventory current buildings and identify strategies for redevelopment and reuse, such as new building, business development, housing, community spaces, or other uses. The group could also identify locations for a park or outdoor gathering space, beautification strategies for signage, planting, and other work to improve the aesthetics of the corridor. Additional actions could be taken to improve the safety of the corridor, including traffic calming strategies, crosswalks, lights, bump outs, bike paths, and wide road shoulders. So let's think for a minute. We go to our agenda. We want to think about what's already been done for a minute. Has there been a Route 4 redevelopment platform of work that's been done in the past? Yes,
Specifically in Mendon?
Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
So the only thing that has been done in the last 20 years is we have created a Mendon Economic Development Committee. It was active for 1 year, and we were able to get the select board to adopt a tax stabilization policy for commercial properties to approve upon their buildings and apply for tax incentives in order to do so. That particular committee has been on hold for 2 reasons this past year. One was COVID, and the other one was we were looking to see what came out of the community visit program and set as priorities in order to move forward. But just initially, that committee has reached out to some of the blighted properties along Route 4 and informed them about the tax stabilization policy.
Do you see that committee joining this committee, or this committee being like, would you want to have 2 separate committees working on this, or?
So most of the members that have participated in the community visit program are on that committee. So we had 5 members, we're down to 4, and I'm not seeing the 4 here in this breakout session, but
Yeah.
We'll work to not have duplication of effort, and we can connect to them. I guess that is, we went through last month a lot of the description of some of the properties that are in blight on Route 4. Some of we've gathered from the different conversations, some of the actions people have recommended around this. Has there been work done on affordable housing or housing on the corridor? Have any of those properties that were drive-by motels or stuff, has there been redevelopment that could be a model for what other properties might do? Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
So I'm sorry, and if anyone else has something to contribute, probably Terry has some background information on what's gone on the planning level. But the reinvention of the Cortina Inn, formerly the Cortina Inn, to the senior housing, that was a major undertaking for that developer, and it's now operating as a senior living facility. That's one example. Going back to the tax incentive program, that was only qualified for commercial businesses, commercial properties, and it was for a redevelopment, not an initial development. And some of the blighted properties along Route 4 are privately owned residences, and not. But then we have some, failed hotels and dilapidated buildings in that area.
Yeah, okay. So Alyssa, you're going to take notes as we walk through and think about potential actions, right? Let's go from the situation as as it's been described in the previous meeting and from Sarah's update, to think about what are some of the practical action steps that a committee, a task force of community members would take to begin the process of looking at this redevelopment of Route 4. Some of them are sort of described in the notes we got from last month, but you want to take a shot at some of the steps that a task force could do to begin the work?
I'll offer up something, thinking about all those businesses or all those buildings that are vacant and what was there previously. It strikes me that it's an opportunity, since there are so many available properties, for the town to define the kinds of businesses that it would like to attract to the local area, and then begin to develop all the kinds of things which are necessary to bring those businesses in. This ties right into one of the previous goals, but I do think that's got to be a subheading of the do something about Route 4.
Well, that's right. And you had mentioned you'd sort of prioritize the business development thing, but it does kind of tie right in. And so this committee could do a bit of a visioning exercise on what are the kinds of businesses we'd like to attract. And we have some of the list in what people said last month in terms of a general store, maybe a cafe somewhere. And so you could be framing towards a bit more of a vision of the kinds of businesses. And then what are the practical steps that it might take to bring some of those businesses to town? Are there what are some of the other practical steps that ought to go into doing work on revisioning the
Paul,
corridor?
can I make a, may I make a suggestion?
Yeah, Joe.
So, you know, as you guys were talking the last hour, I was taking a virtual tour of the corridor. And it's one of the advantages, I guess, about doing this online. And I've been through there many, many times, but just kind of looking at it, you know, with a slightly fresh perspective. And I mean, I think the first thing that I would do is I would divide the corridor up into sections, you know, maybe call them planning sections. And, you know, I think there's some unique areas, you know, like there's the western side of the corridor as you approach Rutland, which seems to be more built up. And then there's lots of areas where there's not as much development. And I know I've heard you mention a town center. I'm not exactly sure where that is, but you know, I would just get a map and I would kind of circle a bunch of areas and that sort of maybe have some distinct characteristics. And then think about each of those areas a little bit and kind of what's the goal or vision within those areas. Like, you know, town center is the town center, and there might be a commercial you know, zone that's a little bit longer and stretched out. There might be an area that you think you really want to protect the views along this area, and it's more should remain kind of open and maybe undeveloped, and just sort of, because I think you can do that as a group without, you know, lots of extra help, although I'm sure Ed's, you know, the Regional Planning Commission could help facilitate a little bit of that, but just to start breaking up and thinking about the corridor in that way.
Thanks, Joe. Joe's from the Agency of Transportation. And does the Agency of Transportation help with that kind of visioning too?
Well, we rely on the regional planning commissions to do that for us.
But we'll come back to what, you know, some of the resources might be that can help you. And certainly Ed does a lot of good transportation work and is well aware of the issues here. Other ideas on steps that the committee would want to take as action. And I'm seeing that a sign that says people have raised their hands, but I don't see the hands.
This is Greg Smith under Megan's sign in.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
If I could throw a thought in there.
Yeah.
And it may come from that gentleman who just spoke. It seems like we should understand what are realistic possibilities for managing Route 4 itself and any modifications that might be possible through AOT.
Yeah.
Because we want our dreams to be realistic and possible as opposed to impossible.
Yes. So evaluate the conditions, meet with AOT and evaluate the conditions. It's a federal highway, right? So what are the things that are doable by the community in terms of connecting to the corridor around traffic and calming and speeds and all that sort of stuff? What are the conditions you have to live with?
Yes, because without that, we might be dreaming unrealistically.
Yeah, you might say we're going to put a sidewalk right here or a crosswalk right here, and it would be completely out of bounds with the.
And I think that also plays well into what Mr. Segal was saying about, maybe sectioning Route 4 so that the things that are possible in some areas that may be impossible in others, that we have a better partitioning or portioning control for it.
And,
Yeah.
and
Sorry.
something that came up last time on that same subject, which didn't come up tonight, was bus stops, lighted bus stops. Where is that possible, and in what part of that corridor would that be a possibility?
Okay, let's come back to that. Terry, you've been waiting. Go ahead. What's your idea?
Well, thank you. And actually, along the lines of what's been said regarding feasibility and the Agency of Transportation, another aspect of it would be what is possible within the right-of-way. Just because of the history, I guess, of Route 4 through Mendon, there's quite a bit of land on either side that's within the agency right-of-way. And I know we had kind of explored, and it looked like there was very little flexibility, but it would be wonderful to find out what is feasible, especially if we have plantings and ideas like that as one possibility. Otherwise, what I was going to suggest in terms of initial steps is finding out, I guess, what resources you made mention of potential grants or planning, whether it's federal or state. I mean, I don't know how we can tie it into COVID-19 pandemic relief monies, but it seems like there's more the potential more resources all of a sudden flowing than has been before. But I'd love to tap into these experts who are so generously giving of their time as to suggestions they might have for us to explore monies that might be available, or planning resources that we can tap into as to what perhaps other areas have done with similar situations, because I've got to assume we're not the first one.
Let's come back to that and have a discussion of what the big resources may be, because we are in a time of transformational investment. So we'll come back. We'll begin to build that list tonight, but we'll also, through this process, set you up with connections to people who can help you dig into that further, including your RPC and RDC. They have a lot of knowledge on this.
Great.
Lyle, I want to give Lyle Jepson the floor. We want to be careful as visitors from the outside not to set the action plan, but we're trying to draw it out. So with that caution, Lyle, what are you thinking?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts based on what I've heard, and I was going to pile on to Joe here with AOT and finding out what the options were. I think people have talked about that.
Yeah.
What can we do with Route 4? But then I was going to say, if you can do 2 or 3 things at the same time, like a blighted hotel that someone might want to sell that turns into your community center, which is also a co-working space. If there's any way you can kind of make it all happen at the same time, that would be my vision. But I don't know quite where that money's coming from, Paul, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Susanna.
Hi.
Sorry.
Tactically speaking, and this may have already been accounted for, but does it make sense to just look at who owns the land up and down the Route 4 corridor and approach them on, you can't do anything, right, until they're willing to do something if they're a private landowner, I would guess, right? And see if they're willing to invest and see what benefits they would get. And then that'll kind of bake it down to what I think Joe was saying around, if you have a clustered group in an area that aren't willing to do anything with their land, then you move on to the next area, right? You can game plan based on that, I guess.
Yeah, so you'd know which property might be for sale. You'd know if there was property that was so blighted and so derelict that it was that maybe it wasn't paying taxes, that you'd have you may have regulatory authority over. You'd be able to really evaluate what your actions could be based on those particular parcels.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Jim Harrison.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I don't have the answers, and I don't have money even, but I just going to throw a couple things out there to pick up on what Lyle said. I mean, it's interesting as you go up and down Route 4, even the